Top 10 debunking videos. Number 10. 9/11 was a planned demolition. YouTuber RKOins4 seems only slightly less devoted to ending the conspiracy theory surrounding the destruction of the World Trade Center as people like the creators of the multiple versions of Loose Change seem to be to getting them going. His most popular and compelling video is the one where he debunks the notion that the Twin Towers in Building Number 7 fell because of explosives placed in advance. Specifically, it shows the missing sound of explosions and flashes that occur with planned demolitions, and explains that the often cited smaller explosions that occur beneath the collapsing floors as being the result of compressed air escaping through weaker exit points. Unfortunately, people invested in the conspiracy downvoted the video with a vengeance. Number 9. Dowsing. The notion behind dowsing is that desired objects can be found using seemingly unrelated materials such as bits of metal at the end of a pendulum or wooden rods. No doubt the incomprehensibility of the skill is part of how it keeps resurfacing, such as being used in the Vietnam War and that sort of thing. However, whenever it gets tested, as Richard Dawkins is seen observing in the clip here, it gets revealed over and over as pretty much nothing. It's actually proved a surprisingly dangerous belief, particularly in regards to essentially dowsing equipment such as ADE 651s and GT200s. Those worthless alleged bomb and drug detectors were sold to governments around the world for millions of dollars and resulted in the deaths of hundreds of people. Number 8. Rods. Rods were camera anomalies of blurry, elongated shapes with what looks like fins flying through the air that were claimed to be, among other things, extra-dimensional beings. That was until tests performed by the History Channel for the program Monster Quest were conducted in 2009 with both conventional and high-speed cameras. They revealed that these supposedly monstrous creatures were just regular insects flying close enough to the camera and at the right speed that the motion of their flapping wings blurred together and their bodies elongated into rods. Given the reputation that the History Channel has since developed for giving far too much airtime to ancient aliens programs, it's a nice change of pace to see them making reasonable points. Number 7. Magnetic Man. It was inevitable that James the Amazing Randi would be somewhere on this list. After all, he is the most famous magician of his time and one of the most successful in regards to transitioning to skeptical inquiry later in his career. One of his finer moments of demonstrating the distinctly natural nature of a person's supposedly unnatural powers took place on South Korean television in the mid-2000s. When a man claimed he had the power to hold metal objects to himself using only magnetic powers, Randi assumed that the individual was relying on an oil naturally generated in his skin called sebum. It took nothing more than a touch of talcum powder to take away the man's supposed magnetic power. Number 6. Telepathy. James Van Prague's fame as a psychic and the producer of CBS's Ghost Whisperer seems to be pretty unassailable, even with highly regarded media like the South Park episode debunking the supposed psychic John Edwards. Telepathy continues to be an enormously lucrative business. Still, it's fun to see it laid bare just how little there is to Van Prague's actual abilities. Here, none other than Michael Shermer, publisher of Skeptic magazine, among other achievements, details the easy tricks that Van Prague uses, not particularly well, to give the credulous the impression there's anything to him. Would be nice if someone would compel these phonies to get real jobs, though. Number 5. JFK's assassination. Even 51 years after the fact, theorists continue to insist that some US government agents assisted Lee Oswald in murdering the president or something along those lines. Among the most often cited evidence that Oswald did not act alone are the ballistics of how Kennedy's head reacted to being shot and the claim that approximately 5 seconds is too little time to get off the shots. On the Showtime program Penn and Teller's BS, they demonstrated that the shots would have caused Kennedy's head to move in that manner, and it would have been possible for Oswald to get the shots off in that time. Of course, given that the famous magician pair are both outspoken libertarians, even Teller, it was probably only reluctantly that they made a point which defended trusting their government. Number 4. Telekinesis. James Heydrich was a person that pretended he had acquired telekinetic powers during his Asian studies, which included such subjects as Kung Fu and Gong Fu. His star plummeted ruinously during a 1980s episode of That's My Line, hosted by Bob Barker and featuring not just James Randi again, but a panel of psychic experts. Heydrich successfully made a pencil move off the edge of the table and flipped a page of a phone book while standing across the room. Then Randi stepped in and hypothesized that Heydrich was just blowing on the objects in question while keeping his lips together, and offered to see if Heydrich could do the same trick with paper scraps scattered around the phone book. Suddenly, Heydrich had issues of static electricity coming from the lights and the scraps of paper making the trick impossible. Even the 3 judges present that advocated psychic phenomena agreed that what they'd witnessed was not a display of telekinesis. Number 3. Holocaust denial. Holocaust on Trial is a Nova documentary from PBS about the work of Holocaust deniers like David Irving. While the framing device of dramatized courtroom footage is at best gratuitous, it features photographs and testimony from persons relevant to the final solution that more than makes up for it, and which makes this evidence available in a convenient manner. The last part is especially handy since YouTube and sites like it are so littered with videos of Holocaust denial that it's hard to find anything as valid as this. Number 2. Near-death experiences as views of the afterlife. Of course, near-death experiences, NDEs, are not paranormal. They've been experienced by people in the millions and described consistently, so surely they are real occurrences. But do they represent the things people often try and claim they do? Are NDEs assurances that there is life after death? Are the commonly reported bright lights and images of faces from our past signs there's heaven, some similar form of nirvana, or maybe perdition after we die? According to Penn and Teller, for another very special episode of their show BS, the answer is a very definitive no. Fortunately, they came to that conclusion in a manner that didn't involve nearly killing anyone. Instead, they took results that came from controlled, repeatable circumstances as the scientific method demands. Those circumstances were that they used reports from people in centrifuges for combat pilot training. From 1,200 results, 218 reported that they experienced the same thing as what's generally described in an NDE, even though their lives were not in danger, and they quickly returned to full health afterward. This offered infinitely more compelling evidence that NDEs are a physical event rather than any sort of spiritual event than anything those claiming that they're related to an afterlife. Number 1. The Apollo 11 moon landing hoax. Certainly, there have been many videos and programs that have debunked the various claims made that show that NASA did not land anyone on the moon in 1969. Probably the best known is when the program Mythbusters tested them. While many of those have addressed the points very well, S.G. Collins' video has a quality to it, not to mention unique information, that earns it our seal of special mention. S.G. Collins begins by describing that the photographic claims made to show the footage from the moon is actually from a studio, multi-directional lighting, lack of stars in some photos, etc. are all false. Shortly thereafter, Collins moves to a much fresher and more compelling topic, the nature of the live broadcast. Broadcasting the footage of the moon being approached by the astronauts with the recording technology of the time would have required tapes the size of cars if it were pre-recorded in some manner, something which reasonably would have been beyond NASA's means at the time to use properly. But S.G. Collins makes a point of potentially greater value throughout the video. It's one that even the sort of conspiracy theorist that needs Apollo 11 to be a lie on many levels will concede has value. Collins reminds us that all the time spent questioning the Apollo 11 mission is time skeptics don't spend on the rightness of such matters as indefinite military detention or financial bailouts. So we urge you watchers, don't just ask questions and look for answers, but ask yourself if you're asking questions worth answering. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button in the top right. Our channel has loads of other awesome videos just like this.